Hello, welcome everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thank you all for taking some time and joining us for Marketing Operations in 2025, a new framework for success, presented by Marketing Pro Pulse and sponsored by Postalytics. I'm Tara, the manager of Marketing Pro Pulse, and I am very excited to bring you this brand new session that will dive into a new and unique framework to help you maximize your marketing operations potential in the new year. I am really looking forward to hearing from Mike Rizzo and Darrell Alfonso today and what I know will be a valuable and fun conversation. And just so you know, we will be recording this webinar in case you need to leave early. We'll be sending it to you by email within 48 hours. And you can also visit the webinar's registration page after today's session to view the recording there as well. We're going to send that link into the chat box right now for you. Up next, perfect. Before we go any further, I want to thank Postalytics for sponsoring this webinar and helping us to make this happen. I also encourage you to participate in the poll that's popped up on your screen so we can learn a little more about you. Postalytics is the leading direct mail automation software platform that makes direct mail a digital marketing channel. They help marketers and agencies solve three problems associated with traditional direct mail marketing: speed. They cut the time it takes to create a direct mail campaign from weeks to minutes. Integration. Postalytics enables fast, easy integrations with leading CRM, marketing automation tools, and the full marketing tech stack. Analytics. On-demand dashboards provide real-time access to direct mail campaign deliverability and response data. Postalytics is the pioneer of the direct mail automation category, has thousands of happy clients, and is an Inc. 5000 company. And you can learn more about how Postalytics can help you and your organization at postalytics.com. So thank you again to Postalytics. Up next, let's quickly go ahead and get some technical things out of the way. Please don't hesitate to ask questions during today's event. You can do so by submitting your questions into the Q&A panel found in the toolbar at the bottom of this webinar window. Great questions always make for a great discussion, so don't forget to stick around for our dedicated Q&A session near the end of the hour so you can get even more insights and advice from our panelists. And the chat box is also open for discussion and comments, so don't forget to change the blue button in the box to everyone so you can join the conversation. My wonderful colleague Tori will be fielding your questions and comments today. She'll also be happy to answer anything technical you might have. Feel free to pull up the chat box or the Q&A, say hello, let her know where you're joining us from today. Also, closed captioning is available for this webinar, and to enable this feature, you can select the Show Captions option from the toolbar. And lastly, if you have any audio issues during today's presentation, you may choose to dial in by phone. All dial-in information can be found in your confirmation email from Zoom, and Tori can also relay it to you at any point if you need it. Up next, today I again am very excited to hear from Mike Rizzo and Darrell Alfonso. As the founder and CEO of marketingops.com, Mike Rizzo leads a pioneering platform dedicated to empowering the marketing operations professionals. He spearheads the MO Pros community, a vibrant network that has grown by over 110 members monthly since 2019, and is complemented by a rich media suite with the OpsCast podcast, community-led blog, and MarTech solution demos. MarketingOps.com also provides templates, frameworks, and cutting-edge industry research. His professional experience before founding MarketingOps.com spans a broad range of marketing operations, MarTech, growth marketing, and community building. Darrell Alfonso is a globally recognized MarTech and marketing operations expert, thought leader, and speaker, currently serving as the Director of Marketing Strategy and Operations at Indeed.com. With a successful track record that includes his work at AWS, Darrell has been at the forefront of aligning marketing strategy with cutting-edge technologies to drive business growth and operational efficiency. He is the author of the MarTech Handbook, a comprehensive guide for marketers navigating the evolving world of technology, and also writes the Marketing Operations Leader newsletter, where he shares insights on industry trends, best practices, and leadership in the marketing operations space. So, with that said, I'm going to pass things over to you, Darrell, to get us started.
Okay, thanks, Tara. Um, hey, good to see everybody. Thanks for having. Mike and I are actually good friends. We've worked in this industry for a long time, and we're really excited to share this new framework with you. Um, and it's a framework that I've been working on with other thought leaders called the 7P model of marketing operations. And it's just such a great way to strategically think about how to assess your marketing function and how to improve it. And I've been working on it with Mike. And as we were putting together this webinar for you, we also found that Mike's team runs a great survey and sort of state of the marketing ops report. And there was a ton of just good data that supported what we were going to share in this framework. So Mike was kind enough to include a lot of that data, and we're going to go through it together, as well as some best practices. Um, Anything you wanted to share, Mike, before I start to dive in?
No, I mean I'm super excited about this. For those of you who haven't seen this model or heard about marketingops.com or followed Darrell yet, I encourage you to do so. Between himself, our community, and a number of us, we're constantly trying to find ways to support the vocation of marketing operations. And hopefully today this will be just one of the steps that you can take to maybe advance your career, build a team, change careers, whatever it is that sort of floats your boat. But we're excited.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's dive in. Let's dive in. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background. One of the main problems that we've seen is that marketers, marketing operations, even like revenue ops, people of all um, all job titles, they one of the main problems that they have is leaders say, "Hey, you're not strategic enough. What We need you to be more strategic. We don't see you as a strategic person," and that really hurts. And so I set out to try to solve that problem, or at least address that problem. And I came across and what better way to be strategic than to study strategic consulting? It's literally the almost what they're known for. And I came across this model called the McKinsey 7S model for change management. And while it's a really excellent model, I found that it didn't really apply to marketing. It applied more to like the entire business, and it didn't really apply to marketing operations. So I worked together with Mike and other thought leaders, across industries, and we came up with this framework, which we're quite proud of, and I think is super effective, and it really kind of shifts the way that you think of marketing and marketing operations. And the idea is that you can take this framework back to your company and start to address and assess each of these components to level up the strategic effectiveness of your organization. So these are the 7Ps. I'll go through them quickly, and then we're going to start to go into some data on each one and some best practices on each one, so that all of you can kind of start to use these at your jobs. So the 7Ps are people, planning, PMO, which stands for Project Management Office, platforms, performance, partnerships, and prioritization. And in the remainder of this webinar, we'll talk a little bit about each one means, go into some data, and then kind of share some examples of how you can make sure that your organization is like firing on all cylinders on all of these strategic points. Any comments, Mike, before we start to dive into the model?
No, I'm eager to dive in. I mean, I do love that the one comment is I love that people are at the center.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And then the other thing that I was like saying when we were coming up with this, I was like, so many good words start with P. We're so lucky. Like it just works out. Like all
We're
these,
so fortunate to
it was
have
so
so many
lucky. Yeah, it's like P. It's like whoa. We can kind
well-aligned
of keep
P
going.
terms, the 7P
Yeah, it
model.
actually it got to the point. It got to the point where I had other words that started with P that it just didn't fit because there's too many P's already. So anyway, that's not here there nor there. Let's move to the first one. So we're talking. The first P is planning, and this goes into OKRs and goal setting. It goes
Mhm.
into um, aligning revenue and business goals. And planning gets a bad rap sometimes, but if you really think about it, planning is strategy. And if you're getting that feedback of, hey, you're not strategic enough, it's quite likely that your planning needs to be leveled up or like reevaluated. Um, so let's dive into some of the data that Mike's provided.
Yeah, thank you. So just a quick little nugget from our annual research project. This is our fourth year, if I'm not mistaken, running this survey. We call it the State of the MoPro survey, which stands for the State of the Marketing Operations Professional. And what we found this year is that 60% of the marketing operations professionals are actually involved in budget planning and management. And as you think about your growth in your career, your tenure itself, that that level of involvement becomes more and more likely the more experience you have. So, we're not trying to pretend that you can just instantly step into strategic discussions, but it doesn't mean that you can't make an impact either, right? Look, 14% of our respondents with less than 3 years of experience are saying that they're still involved in some way around budget planning and management. And there's nothing more strategic than actually managing to the budget that you have, right, from a go to market perspective and the execution and delivery of a go to market tech stack. Your unique visibility into the broader tech stack as a marketing professional who's got their hands in everything from pre funnel to post funnel is really, really special. I said unique at the top, I chose a different word there for a reason. Not very many people have access to the types of visibility and information that you do. And what you need to do is find more ways to surface what you have visibility into and bring that value into these discussions. Start getting curious, leverage your number one trade as a marketing operations professional, and dig in and try to find things that you can bring to these discussions. But yeah, our data is showing that more and more of our professionals in our field are being seen as strategic, especially as tenure increases.
Totally. Yeah, and just a couple of comments. One thing to think about when you think about planning, um, planning is done with others. So when when you're creating your annual plan, your strategic plan, it's almost like a sort of round robin of getting everybody on board with getting everyone's feedback about what the plan should be and what the goals are, and then aligning on what you're going to do to achieve the goals. So that's something that I think that goes kind of missed a little bit. The other thing that I wanted to share before we move on is that many people don't know that if you can own or at least strongly influence the budget, it's immediate authority to your role. Um, most of the things in business require investment, and if you hold the purse strings, so to speak, it's automatically immediate authority and respect. And the other thing that I've kind of found as I've been working in marketing operations is that so many people are really poor. They're really not good at managing budget. So if you can at least brush up your budgeting skills a little bit, you're already going to be ahead of the crowd. I think when it comes to budgeting and planning. So, all right, with that, I think we're going to move on to the next one.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay, next one. All right, prioritization. So with this P, there's like a prioritization is kind of like an umbrella for a bunch of different things. It's resource management, initiative sequencing, road mapping also falls under this. And so when it comes to prioritization, it really refers to what are we going to do first and what are we going to do later. And I put in a sample um, roadmap that you can kind of reference. And I'll call out a few things that I found is super helpful. Number one, if you're putting together a roadmap, I've actually found it really helpful to invest in visually displaying it. It might sound kind of like, not important, but I think many teams put together their roadmap. They just have it like on a spreadsheet, and it's kind of difficult for the mind and for like stakeholders to understand what's happening and when, and it's often overly complicated. If you invest just a little bit of time, and there's tools that do this for you, I think like most project management tools will lay out a Gantt chart like this for you. It really gives leaders a sense, and your partner teams a sense of like what you're working on and when they're going to fall. The other thing that is visually shown here is I broke them down into like what buckets or categories that these initiatives fall under, because that's the other thing too that is very common with roadmap. They're so comprehensive that it's too difficult to kind of pick apart like what's actually happening. So that's a nice visual separation, and it helps the reader understand what you're doing, and sort of like the themes in which you're doing them. And the other thing that I would say that's worked really well for me in road mapping is it's kind of like, I call it it's kind of like a round robin roadshow a little bit. So the way that I recommend doing a roadmap is you meet with leaders and key stakeholders across the business and understand what their goals are and their key challenges are. So that takes, depending on the size of your org, it could take a week for a smaller company. It takes multiple weeks at a larger company. So once you've gathered all that data, you list them, inventory all of them, and then you figure out, based on your role as a marketer or RevOps person or whatever, what initiatives will help your stakeholders reach their goals, and what's going to solve their problems. And then you marry that together, put them on the roadmap, and then it happens again. So you basically do the exact same thing, but instead of interviewing them, you are now presenting to them. And it's such a wonderful way of getting alignment and getting feedback on the roadmap that you're doing. And what you'll realize is you're actually not creating a roadmap by yourself. You're co-creating it with people across the business, and it's just been wonderfully effective for me. And I highly recommend that process. Any comments, Mike?
Yeah.
Sure.
This is near and dear to my heart. So for those of you that don't know my background, which I assume you won't, is I actually got my start in B2B SaaS at a project management company that was once known as MavenLink. So my whole world was consumed by effectively resource and project management technology. I have a deep affinity for Gantt charts. I love waterfall. I'm okay with agile. That's a whole other webinar we can go down. But from this perspective, I have to tell you, I've done this as well. I've put these kinds of things into practice when rolling out our community initiative, when I actually boomerang back to MavenLink to roll out their very first customer community. This type of exercise and alignment, particularly in the visualization around bucketing this information, is really, really impactful to you and your career, as well as your organization. You can also, as Darrell alluded to, right, as you're sort of making the rounds, talking to your stakeholders and co-creating this roadmap, you'll find that the initiatives, right, your initiatives, maybe in this example here, just to illustrate the point and lean on it, data, technology, and strategy, you could potentially tie those back into some of the core KPIs that your organization is focused on for the quarter or for the year, right? So there could be another layer of how does that align to the broader departmental goals or company goals as well, right? So this is yours underneath theirs, underneath the whole company or what have you. It won't get too complicated. It just shows that you're really thinking through all of the aspects and trying to visualize and support the business in as many ways as you can. So I absolutely love this.
Yep. And to close this off, a quote that I always like to say is that if you don't have a roadmap for your team, someone else will make it for you.
So
and
true.
You're not going to like it. Okay,
Yeah.
moving on. People. All right, people. So people refer the your team. what roles does each person play? And I also put change management in there because um, I think it's like change management and culture. Like, do people feel empowered to get their jobs done? Do they feel empowered to solve problems on their own, or is it more of a, top down command and control culture? All of that, I think, requires diagnosis and assessment, and that's people. And I think we're going to get into some data that Mike has about this.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've reiterated time and time again on webinars we've done together, Darrell, the podcast, speaking engagements, just in content in general. It's people, process, and then technology, always in that order. It really, at the end of the day, that's why I said at the top of this, webinar today, I love that people are at the center of the 7P framework that you have. Our data this year, again, it's a study of the marketing operations profession itself, is showing that we have 67% of our respondents reporting to a marketing title, and they're actually getting increasing involvement in that strategic planning function. I don't want to belabor the point of how exciting this is, because we talked about it at the top. But when we're starting to see more and more alignment to the CMO, you can imagine just how much more trust you're building inside of an organization, and how impactful you can be to drive real change. Like when Darrell talks about change management, you I don't know about you all, but as a marketing operations professional or marketing technologist, I see ourselves as a problem solvers, right? Somebody has something that needs to be accomplished, and we're the curious ones that want to figure out how to go solve that thing. And I think as long as you're constantly lining that back to the departmental goals or to your direct leadership, you will find a ton of success in your career. And this data is just supporting that. We're seeing more and more of these professionals reporting into senior leaders in the marketing department as a whole. So
Totally. Yeah. And I would say too, like it's so great to see that the marketing takes up a big part of this chart. Um, the prediction that I have, and that I think many people share, is that over the coming years, marketing and product will the growth of those teams will outpace the growth of the other teams. Like, that's a big sort of prediction. I think we're seeing it trending. The reason for that, and by other teams I mean like sales, CS, maybe like IT, and other like business teams, like they'll probably stay um, the same, right? But
yeah,
marketing and product will grow faster for a couple of reasons. One is that buying is becoming more self-driven. I mean, it's been self-driven, but now, we're almost at the tipping point where buyers don't even want to talk to salespeople at all, and then and they just want to do their own research, whether it's talking to AI or talking or just test driving the platforms themselves. The other, or test driving products and services themselves. The other thing is that customer experience expectations are getting higher and higher, just because of our own, we as consumers experience very like almost seamless transactions when you're even buying like high tier products. It's very seamless. So that customer expectation, it translates both to when you're buying products as a consumer and when you're buying products as a business, a business buyer. And what that means is the customer experience, marketing should take ownership of the customer experience, like as a touch point, and make sure that it's world class in each touch point. So that's why I say when we talk about people, it does pay off. It will pay off to invest in, double down on marketing and double down on making sure the execution of marketing is best in class. And the
mm-hmm.
execution of marketing is what we call marketing operations, by the way. So
That's right. Yeah.
anyway, should
I
I
love,
move,
I
Mike, or
just,
you
yeah,
anything?
absolutely. You can move on. I'll just make one last comment. And it's really around the notion, and I didn't know if we would bring it up today or not, but I do firmly believe that ultimately marketing operations professionals are a form of a product manager. Your product is just made up of many go-to-market technologies. And your job is to figure out how to create the most seamless experience for your customers, the people who actually buy the products and services that your business sells, as well as your internal stakeholders, to help them maximize the value that they can bring to the business. You have a lot of quote unquote users to cater to, and you have a lot of features and functionality to adopt and deploy. Just to hark back to what we talked about, there's people you need to interact with, there's user interviews and research you need to conduct, both internally and externally, and there's a roadmap that you need to build out to be able to deploy a highly functioning, scalable go-to-market tech stack. And I totally agree with Darrell that we are going to see a lot of growth, a continued growth in this sector because of that.
Totally. Okay, moving on. Platforms. All right, this is oftentimes marketing ops favorite one. So platforms refers to the technology stack, could be MarTech stack, the RevTech stack, GTM stack, whatever you call it today, to enable marketing effectiveness. I like to think of this as like, do we have the right platforms in place to create a great customer experience and help us achieve the business goals? And I think Mike also has data on this. So Mike.
We did find some data on this. So this is the journey of how the role of marketing ops has been evolving over the last handful of years. We've been doing this research. You will have access to these slides. Certainly go download the research when you get a moment. But ultimately, we've seen this gradual change where systems and MarTech management and the integrations were at the forefront of the sort of priority for a marketing operations professional. And in 2023, we saw that data was becoming the top priority, with 70% of our professionals saying that that sort of analysis and reporting, all that synthesis, was a really significant part of their responsibility. And it was a big shift away from just managing the technology to starting to manage the data that's coming in for better business impact and insights. Now we're seeing that sort of gradual transition of adopting technology, looking at the data, and really trying to fully understand the strategic value of that data. We're seeing that 37% of our respondents feel that they're now having a seat at the table during these discussions around how to best leverage the technology and the underlying data infrastructure so that they can continue to go implement and optimize the go-to-market tech stack. So it's really, really exciting. I sort of talked about it at the top too. You have unique visibility into your sort of systems of record. I encourage you to leverage those insights and continue to come back to these conversations to make a real impact on your organization. Darrell, let's jump into, unless you have comments to add.
Why don't we, I'll comment after your next slide.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, let's jump into the integrations slide, which I think is what I had next. Yeah. So this is not surprising, I think, for hopefully not surprising for all of you. Basically, at the end of the day, we say, hey, what's the most important criteria for you to consider integrating, or rather purchasing or acquiring new technology? Top of the list for a marketing operations professional is the ability to integrate to an existing and new technologies that you want to invest in. So this is a strategic vision on your go-to-market tech stack, which I was talking about a moment ago, right? You have a product roadmap that you want to build upon, and you now understand fully, almost 82% of our respondents are saying, hey, we absolutely need all of these systems to be talking to each other more regularly so that we can maximize their potential. Down the list, price, of course, there's always price sensitivity and elasticity in a market. But as you continue to sort of move down, you see that the importance of some of these facets start to sort of drop off. Darrell, comments?
Yep. Yeah. So this is right on. I think that, so one of the things that I think we're probably seeing a shift of too is, in the past, marketing operations has been about, hey, which platform can I master? Can I really understand deeply how to use one platform and, do my work? Now it's increasingly shifting to, how do these platforms work together in the best way to drive results and to solve problems? So I think that you're seeing that shift. I also think, and to no fault of anyone, a lot of marketing operations professionals got really good at like one or two, like marketing automation platforms, or workflow management platforms, whatever, or maybe like CMS or something, right? They really master that, and what that gave them was job security. So get so they were the experts, the subject matter experts at specific technology, meaning that they could get a job in multiple industries and probably even work remote. That was what we saw, 5, 10 years ago, and it's still to some extent true today. Now, that is really great that you have that security, but I think what we've seen, and across many of my colleagues, is it comes with a cap. You reach a certain cap because your skills and your authority and your influence only extends to that specific platform. But business is about more than just what marketing automation technology you're using or what CRM you're using. So what many of us have, unknowingly done is we've traded growth for security. And what the call now, I think the rallying cry now is, rather than ask, what tools do I need to master? It's really more about like understanding what skills and like traits and like strategies that you need to learn, like mental models that you need to learn to solve big problems at work, regardless of the platform.
Yeah.
So that's just something that I've been thinking about, and I think, Mike, you probably agree. Like I've been seeing this shift in the marketplace for some time.
Yeah, 100% agree. At the end of the day, if you are mastering the data integration layer, you are going to become a key decision maker and open up new career opportunities in your just broader tech and strategy sort of acumen. What I've been talking about a lot with folks in our community, many CEOs that I've been just having this discussion with, just to sort of get market validation. And the nice thing is we get a lot of head nodding. Maybe they're just being nice though. So you all can maybe clap or something if you agree. Today, I don't believe that there's a reliable leader better suited than a marketing operations professional when it comes to building the go-to-market tech stack of the future. I don't think that the board or the CEO has anyone to turn to, the CIO, the CTO, you name it. They don't know how to translate often. I'm not saying everybody, but often the translation of go-to-market business initiatives, the language, the data, the MQLs, the lifecycle stages, the alignment between all these departments, that translation to how technology works and how data works is something that marketing technologists and marketing operations professionals are really, really good at. And this is the shift that we're seeing, right? So it is a rallying cry to echo Darrell, right? We absolutely need to push that into the market and be seen as strategic, value-driven leaders at the C level eventually, to keep driving this stuff forward. So
Totally. Yep. Yeah. And this is what happens when you bring Mike and I together. We just hype each other up.
sorry, yeah, you got me all fired up.
We could literally talk about this all day. Like I can just
Yeah,
keep going, but let's move
yeah,
on.
totally.
Okay. So the next one is project management office. And you can really think of this as an umbrella category that makes you sort of assess and identify, are the processes, the way in which work gets done, are the procedures, are the programs, all of these things that we do to get marketing out to the door, to get programs out to the door, to engage customers. This, we're talking about sales processes as well, like revenue operations processes as well. Are they up to? Are they efficient? Are they simple? Are they clear? Are they documented? All of these things make it so that it's important to make this assessment and then sort of come up with a plan to address them. Now, I'm gonna take the webinar off just a little bit because I want to explain such a really core concept that is really close to my heart, and it's the idea of bottlenecks and constraints. So Just give me a couple of minutes. This is really cool. So there at work, you have something called, in order to improve processes, you have to address bottlenecks. The other word for bottleneck is constraint. And there's an entire book on this. It's called The Goal, the Theory of Constraints. And this is how you do it. The best way, like my favorite example of how to address constraints in processes is to think of this analogy. Okay, so pretend you're on a hike and you have 4 kids and they're of different ages. And your goal is to get these kids across the forest and to the campsite. Okay, so in the shortest amount of time possible. What is the constraint? What is the bottleneck? Anybody guess? Okay. The bottleneck or the constraint is the speed of the slowest kid. That's it. There's only one. It's the slowest kid. That is the determining factor of how fast you will get to the campsite. So what you then do is you go through all of these steps to address to help the smallest kid, or the sorry to say smallest kid, the slowest kid, maybe he's big, the slowest kid to get
That's true.
across the forest. So for example, you do things like, okay, you take out everything from that kid's backpack and you spread it amongst the other kids, so he goes faster. Or maybe you spend more money and you give him better, more comfortable shoes, or maybe you give him like, I don't know, more food. It's a funny example, but if you think about it, anything else that you do that does not address the bottleneck is kind of a waste of time. So let's say for example, you try to give the other kids like coffee, or you give the other kids, better shoes, right? It doesn't matter. Like the whole process, or the time that you spend getting across the forest, still remains the same, because you're only incrementally or very at a small amount addressing the smallest kid. So I think that me personally, when I get to work, this concept really kind of turned a light bulb for me, because what I found was I was treating all of the steps in order to get marketing out the door the same. We're going to make an improvement here, 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 rather than homing in on what actually takes the longest and what is the limiting step. So sorry to go on a rabbit hole there, but I really hope that that kind of helped people understand that the concept of bottlenecks and constraints is such an interesting and fascinating one that can really help level up your marketing. Mike, I'll let you kind of talk so much. Sorry.
No, it's good. I love it. I think it's a really good way to sort of conceptualize something that often feels a little abstract, right? And bringing sort of concrete examples to life. This whole journey, it's cyclical. There probably should be, yeah. Well, I guess repeat the process captures it, right? But really, it just never ends in your role in go to market marketing operations, and I think that's the other thing, to just sort of your job is really never done. You might have figured out how to solve one problem, but there's inevitably going to be more.
I love it. Good point. It's kind of like a flywheel or virtuous cycle. Cool. So that's PMO. Next is performance. I would say if there was one that should be elevated besides people, one that should be elevated, it's performance when it comes to strategy. And this talks about the key metrics, KPIs, reporting, OKRs, the frequency in which you review the dashboards or reports that show how the business is performing across multiple teams. This one is so key. And let's take a look at the data for Mike.
Yeah. I don't know. Do I want to start with my issue of this data or not? Is the challenge. Look, there's lots of ways to measure marketing in general. This data, again, is very specific to how is a marketing operations professional measured in terms of KPIs. And you can see the actual question, right? What is the primary key performance indicator for evaluating the success of a marketing operations team? The answer year over year is pipeline. Influence, sourced, and last touched opportunity. So this uses very B2B friendly terms. For those of you in B2C, I apologize. We just have a very strong B2B audience. Um, I don't know about you, Darrell. I actually I take some issue with this measure. Marketing operations professionals, you're not actually influencing pipeline in the sense of generating new campaigns or sourcing new deals. However, the third highest rated response is something you do actually impact. And I intentionally put that data in there, or that answer to this question, velocity tracking between life cycle stages, or just let's call it velocity tracking in general, right? The ability to get somebody from point A to point Z as efficiently and effectively as possible, that that's where you're spending most of your time. We just got done showing the slide about removing the sort of barriers in the process, right? It's really fascinating to me that this type of KPI continues to show up, and I think it's wrong. I think that marketing departments and organizations need to think about measuring the success of their marketing operations and marketing technology teams in a slightly different manner. Ability to deliver new features, ability to get platform adoption, velocity and improvement, and speed to lead, data quality, because data quality results in better yield from, the ability to go close deals. All of those kinds of things are really strong strong skill sets of these practitioners. But for what it's worth, that's what the data shows today. And for all of you on this webinar, if you could start championing, if you feel strongly about any one of these as a primary KPI for yourself, I would encourage you to try to prop that up higher on your priority list to see if we can't start moving the needle on things. But yeah, anyway, Darrell, thoughts around KPIs. How are you measuring your team, I guess, is a good question.
Yeah, you know, at my job, we're a marketplace business. So it means that there's B2B and B2C and PLG. So that's a very complex one.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I will say that the way that I like to think of performance is like I try to simplify it. One is there's two questions. One question is all of the KPIs or the numbers should be trending upward. And if it's not, then there's usually some sort of problem somewhere. So you know, taking doing another deep, like going down a level and trying to understand why the numbers aren't going up is the first part of like performance assessment and analytics. The other thing that I'd like to think of is that there's a handful of metrics like pipeline or revenue or conversions that really move the needle, that like disproportionately drive the business. And those are
Mhm.
the ones that you should focus on and attach your projects and your programs to. So that's my first thought. I think that the other one, I hear what you're saying where you don't really love the pipeline one. I think there's different schools of thought, I think, around what marketing ops, like the ultimate objective of marketing ops. And I think that on one hand, one school of thought is to create and build the infrastructure in such a perfect way that in such like a robust and complete way that people the GTM teams can run as fast as they want. So that is one school of thought. The other school of thought, which is kind of like which I like tend toward, is I like the marketing operations team to expand their scope to more and more in a strategic sense, like to move more towards strategy and to actually inform what the big decisions are what being made. I don't think either one is right or wrong. I think it just depends on kind of like you personally, what you'd like to do with your career. Um, so I would say on the one hand, where you're trying to build the infrastructure programs and processes in a way that just really supports rapid growth or scale, I think that you don't have to think too much about pipeline. I think alternatively, if you're looking to take a more strategic seat at the table and influence more like large marketing decisions broadly, then I think pipeline is a great one to measure, because it's the perfect in between. Like, you can't help them really kind of close the deal that's really on sales, but you can't help fill the pipeline. And I think pipeline's a wonderful measure because it's right in the middle. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
Love it.
Okay, moving on. Let's see. How are we doing? Okay, so we've got two
It's our
more.
last P.
Oh, is it? Oh, is it the last one? Okay,
Yeah,
right on time then. Right on
our
time.
last one.
Okay, so partnerships is the last one. So partnerships primarily refer to internal partnerships in this model. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't think about, other companies and how we can partner with them to drive revenue. That's part of it. But when we're assessing marketing as a function, in this model, we're specifically referring to how do we work with other teams to get our projects across the finish line and to achieve our goals, especially product, sales, finance, CS, again, sales ops, revenue ops. Those are our big ones. IT, that's another big one. So evaluating your partnerships with other groups. And I think Mike also has great data on this one too.
Got some more data for y'all. So this is all about who you're sort of regularly working with. You can see we popped a poll up here if you want to jump in and give us your 2 cents. So from the research this year, we asked, hey, who are you regularly working with, and what are we seeing in terms of a trend here? Sales operations, revenue operations, they all sort of cropped up right near the top. Um, at the end of the day, this just like speaks to a lot of the messaging that we were sharing earlier in this discussion, that you can be an alignment and enablement role inside of an organization and partner with these individuals to help them achieve their ultimate outcome, right? It's a pretty exciting time to be in marketing operations. It is truly becoming a cross-functional role. Despite it ultimately reporting into marketing, it doesn't mean that you aren't being a really good partner in the business to these other key departments as well. Ultimately, your challenge is to support the bigger business strategy. When you take the lead on cross-functional projects, it doesn't just help the business, it's a game changer for your career. It actually raises your profile and it positions you as a strategic partner, and it's going to open doors to higher level roles. It's really where marketing operations shines. Ultimately, you are a connector and a driver of success for your entire organization. And this data is clearly showing that a lot of our professionals are starting to work very, very cross-functionally. Any other thoughts, comments to add, Darrell?
Yeah, we can take a look at the poll
Yeah, look at
data.
that.
I think Tara's showing it now, but I think that I'm not surprised by the results. I think it's right on. I also think it speaks to the group because they know which are the important ones to work with.
Yeah.
To focus your attention on sales is a great and smart decision, and I think that the poll results kind of show that. There's a couple things that I would say when I was thinking about the model of like how to assess if you are on the right track, and there's a couple questions that I have that I think really help. One is, how often are you meeting with either the leaders or the actual team members of these other teams? So sales ops, product, IT. Is it monthly, every other week? And I think monthly would probably be the minimum. And if it's not, then I think some changes need to be made.
I
The
love it.
other
Says multiple
question,
times every day.
there you go. I mean,
I love that.
that's ideal. The other one is, and this question's a little bit tougher, but how often are you bringing these other people into big decisions and big projects that you're in? So if you are you know, if you're going to be making big changes to the website, if you're going to be making big changes to the brand, if you're going to be running an event, are you bringing in salespeople? Are you bringing in the product team? Are you bringing in, customer success? That's also a great indicator of how well you collaborate. And if the answer is no, it's a great time to start. I think people, to no fault of their own, right? They try to like go 0 to 60 on a project, and we just kind of forget because we're so like gung ho about getting it done. We forget that we need to have others weigh in because business, like GTM, is a team sport. We don't operate in silos. Um, anyway, those are my comments. And I think we're coming to the end, aren't we? Yeah, we're coming to the end.
We sure
So
are.
I hope everybody appreciates the model, and I think we'll be sharing out the slides so you have that reference. And I hope that you can all take it back to your organizations and level up each of these areas and become more strategic. And hopefully no one will be hearing that dreaded question again of, I wish you were more strategic. Why aren't you more strategic? Any other things,
Yeah.
Mike, you want to comment on that?
Well, I think I was just um, writing back to Courtney in the chat there. For those of you that don't want to do this alone, you don't have to be alone. You can come hang out with us in the community at marketingops.com. Um, you know, I don't know, look at the newsletter, join us in Slack, listen to the podcast. We are talking about this stuff day in and day out all the time. There are people that are building their careers on the backs of the resources that the community broadly is providing, not just marketingops.com, but everybody in it. So I would encourage you to come hang out with us. We did get started in 2017, and we now have over 6,300 members. Actually, I have to update this slide. And if you're not a fan of Slack or your company doesn't let you install it, don't worry. There's still plenty of ways for you to get involved. We do have an upcoming event in May as well. It is called Spring Fling. Darrell, I think we have a slide for that. For those of you that want to take a look, the Spring Fling event is on May 21st in San Francisco. It is a one-day activation. We would consider it a mini Mopsapalooza, which is our larger industry conference. You are more than welcome to come hang out with us. We're hosting it alongside the PLGTM group. So if you're interested in the product-led growth movement, you can also go to plgtm.com to learn more about that. But our day is on May 21, the day after their event. And for more information on Mopsapalooza 2025, you are more than welcome to visit mopsapalooza.com. You can see it in the chat there. We end up bringing around 300. Actually, this year we had 437 attendees in person. It is a hybrid event. Darrell spoke at it both last year and this year. Amazing community-led content. We do not allow for stage time to be purchased. So it's a pretty unique event in that regard. And then lastly, as we've been talking about through all of this research, the State of the MOPR research is available to you. You have the links in the chat. We would encourage you to download it. If you see anything that's wrong with it, message me. We'll get it fixed. And if you have thoughts to share, please don't hesitate to reach out to Darrell or myself or anyone in the community. We are absolutely all in this to try to figure out how to really elevate this profession together.
Totally. And I will do my best to try to make it to San Francisco. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm gonna
Great.
try to come.
We got a
Yeah.
Q&A slide in here somewhere, I think.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Might be towards the
Oops,
end.
sorry, missed that one.
You're fine.
I'm
We'll
way
talk
behind.
through all of it. There we
Okay.
go.
Yeah. All
You
right. Are there any questions, Tara?
Yeah, absolutely there are. And again, just thank you both. What a wonderful presentation. I just so valuable, packed with data. So I really appreciate that. Yes, all the links are in the chat for you to learn more about everything that Mike and Darrell were just chatting about. Before we dive into questions, just reminding everyone now is the time to get straight from the source insight from both of our panelists. Don't forget to submit your questions if you have any. And additionally, I understand if you need to run, I will just remind you that today's session is being recorded and will be emailed to you within the next 48 hours. And if we don't get to your question or comment today, you can always connect with Mike and Darrell via the channels on screen. They are also in the chat. Their LinkedIn's, their websites, newsletters, all of that is there for you. Okay, so let's dive in. We have a couple of questions that I definitely want to touch on. I think this one, coming in from an anonymous attendee, is great. For someone newer to marketing ops, what are some recommendations you have for learning more about this world? I think that comes right back to marketingops.com. Mike, Darrell, any other thoughts there?
I'll plug for Darrell on this one. Absolutely. Darrell has his own newsletter. It looks like it's linked there on Substack. I would highly encourage you to check those out, those resources. There are other communities for you to also step your foot into. If you want to sort of go a little bit broader to the RevOps category, there's a group called RevOps Co-op. I would encourage you to check them out. They're another community. There's another thought leader by the name of Sarah McNamara who puts a lot of great content out there. I would say it's worth giving her a follow as well. And as you dive into marketingops.com in our community, you'll find a whole bunch of people that are sharing their wisdom, and you'll sort of be able to pick your flavor, right, of who it is that you're most interested in following for sure. Daryl,
Yeah, I
additional
love that.
thoughts?
I No, those are great. I would add, like, kind of like what I mentioned earlier in the webinar. But I personally consider marketing operations as the art and science of executing great marketing. So it I think that most people actually are in marketing ops. They just don't know it. That's like
Yeah.
my hot take. And I think that there's two ways that I think you can approach it. One is like learn by learning how to do the execution of marketing better. And there's tons of resources I think that even like um, martech platforms will put out, and that you can just get better at digital marketing is like part one. And then I think the other thing which Mike is mentioning, which is like learning from others, on how to best solve, like not reinventing the wheel, and how to best solve these problems, is that community aspect, and definitely join those. So yeah, great question, and I support Mike's answer.
Thanks.
Thank you both. We can squeeze in one more question here. I think I've seen this come through a couple of times. I'm going to take the one from Tyler. Looking into 2025 and beyond, how do you see AI impacting the marketing ops function? Any thoughts with that, Darrell, Mike?
Mm.
I know
Daryl, do
it's
you want me to
the
jump
dreaded
in?
AI.
Yeah, so I think it's going to change everything and very quickly. And it's actually a little bit scary at how fast I think AI, especially generative AI, is going to change everything. Just recently, you know, the Gen AI providers, the reasoning has upgraded, and now even the image and video creation, AI video creation, has become much easier to access and much easier to do. So what that means is a lot of executional work is kind of um, under fire to become automated or obsolete. So and I know Mike, we've talked about this before. I and many others are advocating for marketing ops to actually spearhead that charge. Like rather than sit back and let more and more of our jobs be taken up by I think that we should be the ones that actually outlines and dictates what the AI strategy for the GTM org will be. And it's a big job, but I think we're actually the perfect ones to do it. We're
Yep.
very data driven, we're very process oriented, and we know the risks too, because a lot of times marketing ops are also involved in the compliance and the security and the privacy of data. So who better than us to spearhead the charge is my take.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I generally agree that it's changing fast. I think that we are still not at a place where AI is able to coach users to to pull the information out of them to yield a really strong result. As a practitioner, as someone who knows your data and your tech stack, you can prompt the system to help you move more effectively and more efficiently. I don't think it's going to take away your job just yet, but I do think that there are opportunities for you to scale yourself in ways that was previously quite challenging to do. I will say that I don't think any of this happens without people behind the scenes to really help leverage and maximize the use of AI. It is generative in nature. It understands that the sequential order of things and what is meant to come next. Um, it can try to draw correlative data, right? But again, someone needs to be there at the helm driving the AI roadmap and strategy. And I totally agree that marketing operations has a really great opportunity to go take that charge. We are going to run some live workshops to that end and how to build a AI like roadmap and strategy. The pilot one is happening in Ottawa in just a handful of weeks, but we'll be bringing them all over the US as well. So I want to say we're doing about five because we're getting this question a lot. What's your AI roadmap? And we're like, let's figure it out. Let's all go figure out how to do that. So,
I love that. Thank you. And with that, that is all the time we have for today. Again, if we didn't get to your question, I know there was a couple more out there. Please, I really highly encourage you to follow up with Mike and Darrell after this webinar. I know they'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you. Um, and again, before we go, I encourage you all to participate in the survey that will pop up in your browser when this webinar closes. This feedback helps us continue to produce valuable webinars that you genuinely enjoy, just like this one. I hope you all learned half as much as I did. Thank you again to our sponsor, Postalytics, and a big special thank you to our phenomenal speakers, Mike and Darrell, for taking the time to answer our questions and provide us with such an insightful presentation. Thank you both.
thank you. Appreciate y'all having
Thanks,
us.
Tara. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tara.
Yes, thank you to all of you for attending. Again, my name is Tara, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Take care.